Team Iggy. I'm Team Azaelia Banks. I'm Team Get the fuck out of here.
No permission needed.
Hello, my free-thinking comrades, and welcome to another episode of One Chick Army. I'm your host, De'Ara Lewis. Okay, so unless you've been living under a rock or you really just don't give a damn, you've gotten wind of this whole Azaelia Banks versus Iggy Azalea beef that's been going on for like 2 years, but has since resurfaced in a really big way in the past few months. So, for those of y'all who don't know, let me give you a very quick recap of what happened. In 2012, Iggy Azalea and Azaelia Banks both released mixtape / YouTube videos that quickly went viral. Iggy's song, Pussy, ooh, oh my, and Azaelia Banks' song, 212. However, it was Iggy who will go on to be on the freshman cover of XXL. And Azaelia Banks had some serious problems with this, as well as with Iggy using the phrase, "I'm a runaway slave, master," in her song Drugs. Iggy then releases a statement saying that she meant no harm by using the phrase. It was only a play on words for Kendrick Lamar's song, Look Out for Detox. She did her own version of the song and just added the word master to Kendrick Lamar's memorable lyric. Since everybody was offended and everything, and she said she really didn't mean any harm, she issued an apology. So now we think everything is cool, right? Wrong. T.I. ended up signing Iggy Azalea. Azaelia Banks started to take out her frustrations on Twitter, and everybody else had something to say about it. Did all of that just make your head hurt too? Now, recently, Azaelia Banks was on Hot 97, where she explained her biggest issue with Iggy was that Iggy was appropriating black culture. Well, this set off a shitstorm, rants, tweets, articles, comments, and everybody's name getting dragged in the mud, from Macklemore to Eminem to Lupe Fiasco. And I seriously get where Azaelia Banks is coming from. I get it. For many years, mainstream hip-hop has favored fair-skinned and white women as an imagery of success, achievement, and worth. One could argue that it was only a matter of time before these women went from being tokens in the videos to actually rapping in the videos. What's better than a dark-skinned Nicki Minaj who's ferociously talented? A white Nicki Minaj. And that's only one school of thought on that. But Iggy tweeted out something that I found very hard to disagree with. Special message for Banks. There are many black artists succeeding in all genres. The reason you haven't is because of your piss-poor attitude, your inability to be responsible for your own mistakes, bullying others, the inability to be humble, and have self-control. It's you. As much as I supported, and I still support many of Azaelia Banks' views about hip-hop and the rap game, on this one, I had to roll with Iggy. Azaelia Banks has attacked damn near anybody who disagrees with her, as if her perspective is the only perspective, as if there cannot be multiple truths to this situation. One of the most recent ones has been Kendrick Lamar, and upon me reading the entire Billboard article, he seems to be more about peace, wanting to make good music, and wanting to stay out of senseless Twitter beefs. Now, upon further investigation, I learned that Azaelia Banks has been into a lot of Twitter beefs with a lot of people, including heavyweights like Pharrell and Lady Gaga, and even Nicki Minaj, some people who can actually help her career. Now, Nicki Minaj has recently lent her support to Azaelia Banks, so it does look like the two ladies have kissed and made up. I'm saying all that to say this. Yes, there is oppression. Yes, there is colorism in the black community. Yes, there is institutionalized racism. And yes, there is definitely hatred. Add the very disturbing trend of dark-skinned women being all but phased out images of beauty in mainstream rap and hip-hop, Azaelia Banks has some legitimate concerns. But racism, overt racism at that, and hatred and oppression have been hurdles to people of color since the dawn of the Americas. And even with that, it has never stopped people of color from doing remarkable things and gaining exceptional notoriety. It is so easy to get caught up in the rhetoric of racism and oppression that so many media outlets push to sell advertising. And yes, racism exists. It exists. And so the fuck what? You know what else exists? Fairness, opportunity, justice, righteousness, integrity, trust. Think about actors like Peter Dinklage, who plays the always clever Tyrion on Game of Thrones. He could have made his entire career a sounding board about being a little person and being discriminated against. But he didn't. He put his energy instead into his work, into his craft. And in X-Men, Days of Future Past, his role was not based on his height. Anybody could have played the role of Dr. Bolivar Trask, but he played it. And he played it so wonderfully that you forget that you are supposed to look at him differently and with judgment. The same with Gabby Sidibe, who defies every stereotype of what an accomplished American Hollywood actress is supposed to look like. She could have made her entire career about being dark-skinned and being overweight and being discriminated against because of it. It would have been very easy for her to make that her platform and even easier for the public to embrace it. But she didn't. She has definitely talked about it, but she certainly has not become it. I'm an artist. I'm an actress, a filmmaker, a producer, a writer, and I had to learn a very valuable lesson, something I learned in 2010 when I was going rant crazy. I was going through a really, really difficult time, and I was posting rants probably every other day, probably every day. And that lesson was to take what I was feeling and put it into my work, put it into my career, put it into my writing. That's what people remember. Seriously, the feud between Jay-Z and Nas. Do you remember more the interviews and the articles and the slick disses that they gave each other on radio shows? Or do you remember Jay-Z's Super Ugly and one of the most epic songs of all time, Nas's The Ether? Twitter rants have their place. Hopefully it gets people to talking, and hopefully their talking turns into sales. But if you beefing and you not selling, then maybe you need to stop beefing and try something else. And mad kudos, a mad shout out to Azaelia Banks for shining a light on a very serious issue in Black cultural music, whitewashing. It is something long overdue that is needed to be discussed. It is very open to interpretation, it is very subjective, and it is something that seriously has needed to be talked about. And at the same time, we all need to choose our battles. Most things are not personal. And even if they are, it doesn't mean you have to take it that way. Do you see, Beyonce running around defending herself against every Twitter diss, or running to defend herself every time some journalist decides to write some defaming article about her? No. And that could be why she's on her way to becoming one of the most cultural icons of our time. Small minds concern themselves with other people. Great minds concern themselves with ideas. And that's all I have to say about that. And now it's time to chat. Topic question. Do you think Azaelia Banks is helping or hurting her career by posting all of her Twitter rants? I want to hear your thoughts, so post them below. And remember that you can chat with me on Twitter, Facebook, or onechickarmy.com. And also, please remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel. That's how we keep in touch. Just click right here and just sign up, and we will be bonded for virtual life. This is One Chick Army, and I am your host, De'Ara Lewis. Over and out.